Commander Zekthar of the Hegemony Fleet observed the small blue planet through his ship's quantum sensors, mandibles clicking in what his species considered amusement. The intelligence reports were clear. Homo sapiens had barely mastered chemical propulsion and primitive nuclear fission. Their most advanced warships still relied on kinetic projectiles and crude explosive devices. A primitive species, he transmitted to his battle group. They call themselves humans. Their technology is approximately 800 standard cycles behind our current capabilities. This will be effortless. The Hegemony had conquered 47 star systems using this same methodology: identify emerging civilizations, catalog their military capabilities, then subjugate them before they could pose any meaningful resistance. Earth would be conquest number 48. What Commander Zekthar didn't understand, what none of the Hegemony's xenobiologists had predicted, was humanity's most dangerous characteristic: their absolute refusal to accept limitations. Dr. Sarah, Chen had been working in the CERN particle accelerator facility when the first alien ships appeared over major Earth cities. Unlike the panicked crowds in the streets above, she and her team had immediately recognized an opportunity. They're using some form of controlled gravitational manipulation for propulsion, she told the Emergency Council of World Leaders via encrypted quantum link. Their energy signatures suggest technology at least several centuries ahead of ours. So we surrender? Asked the UN Secretary General, his voice heavy with defeat. Sarah's smile was sharp enough to cut diamond. Hell no. We upgrade. The aliens had given humanity a 72-hour ultimatum: submit to hegemony rule or face complete pacification. They expected terror, desperate attempts at negotiation, perhaps some futile gestures of resistance with conventional weapons. They had not expected every physicist, engineer, and theoretical scientist on Earth to voluntarily lock themselves in laboratories and research facilities. Working with a manic intensity that bordered on religious fervor, Commander Zekthar's confidence began to waver when his sensors detected the first anomaly. Deep beneath the surface of several continents, massive energy signatures had begun manifesting, power outputs that should have been impossible for a civilization that had only recently discovered nuclear fission. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're detecting gravitational distortions emanating from multiple points on the planet's surface. The energy patterns are unusual." "Unusual how?" "They appear to be artificially manipulating fundamental forces at the quantum level." "But that's impossible. This species lacks the technological sophistication for such applications." Zekthar's secondary eyes narrowed. "Increase orbital surveillance, and prepare the subjugation fleet for immediate deployment." In a reinforced bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Chen and her international team had done something that would have made their ancestors proud. They had taken every rule of physics they knew and systematically broken each one. "The alien ships use gravitational manipulation," she explained to her exhausted but exhilarated colleagues. "But they're thinking in terms of classical physics, massive energy expenditure to create localized gravitational fields. They don't understand that humans don't solve problems by following rules. We solve them by changing the rules." The breakthrough had come when a sleep-deprived graduate student from Mumbai had accidentally cross-referenced quantum entanglement, protocols with the theoretical frameworks for manipulating the Higgs field. What should have been impossible became merely improbable, and improbable had never stopped humanity before. "We're not just manipulating gravity," Chen continued. "We're redefining the relationship between matter and space-time itself. Their ships exist within the universe. Our weapons exist despite the universe." The attack began exactly 72 hours after the ultimatum expired. Commander Zekthar's fleet descended from high orbit, confident in their technological superiority. Their plasma cannons could vaporize entire city blocks. Their defensive shields could withstand the force of small stars. They were utterly unprepared for what emerged from Earth's surface. The first human warships didn't follow any recognizable design principles. They weren't streamlined for atmospheric flight. They were perfect cubes that moved by convincing local spacetime that momentum was optional. They didn't mount weapons in traditional configurations. Instead, they carried devices that temporarily convinced reality that the laws of thermodynamics were merely suggestions. "Impossible," Zekthar whispered as his tactical displays showed energy readings that his computers couldn't process. They're violating the fundamental constants of the universe. Sir, his communications officer reported, voice trembling, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. Dr. Chen's image appeared on the main screen, her expression politely professional. Commander Zekthar, I presume. This is Dr. Sarah Chen representing the unified scientific community of Earth. We've reviewed your ultimatum and found it inadequate. Your primitive technology cannot threaten the hegemony fleet, Zekthar snarled. Chen's smile was radiant. Oh, Commander, you misunderstand. We don't have technology. We have something much more dangerous. We have engineers who think the laws of physics are merely starting points for negotiation. The demonstration began with a single human vessel approaching Zekthar's flagship. The ship's defenses activated automatically, projecting an energy barrier capable of withstanding the combined firepower of an entire battle group. The human ship fired a single pulse of what the sensors registered as impossible energy, a projectile that convinced the universe that Zekthar's shields existed in a different dimensional framework entirely. The barriers, suddenly unable to find anything to protect against, simply stopped. Your species spent millennia perfecting ways to work within universal constants, Chen explained conversationally as alarms blared across the alien bridge. Humans spent 3 days figuring out how to argue with them. Would you like to see what we accomplished on day 4? The retreat was swift and absolute. The few hegemony ships that survived the encounter transmitted urgent warnings throughout their territory. Avoid the Sol system at all costs. The species there had somehow weaponized theoretical physics itself. Commander Zekthar, among the survivors, filed his official report with shaking appendages. Recommend immediate classification of Homo sapiens as a galaxy-class threat. They have developed technology that operates outside known physical laws. Request immediate implementation of permanent quarantine protocols around their system. Back on Earth, Dr. Chen stood in her laboratory, watching as her team celebrated their impossible victory. Through the windows, she could see the strange new ships humanity had built, vessels that moved by politely asking space-time to step aside, armed with weapons that convinced energy and matter to switch roles. What do we do now? Asked her assistant. Chen smiled, already reaching for the next theoretical framework to demolish. Now we see what other rules the universe thinks are non-negotiable. After all, we're human. The word impossible just means we haven't tried hard enough yet. In the depths of space, ancient alien civilizations detected the gravitational anomalies emanating from the small blue planet and quietly updated their star charts. Some territories, they realized, were better left unexplored. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not with conquest, but with something far more terrifying: the absolute certainty that any limitation was simply a problem waiting to be solved.